I'm Mike Bradner, and this is Capital Views, and we're with Kathie Wasserman, who is the Executive Director of the Alaska Municipal League, and that's about the shape of every different animal that's out there, all kinds of different communities. So you got a tough job of corralling everybody into one direction. So what's the priorities?
Our priorities usually don't change. They seem to revolve around. Our first priority is and always has been revenue sharing, which is the small amount of money that the state provides to local governments that is based on our oil income. So as the oil income provides the state's operations, and then some of that money goes to the permanent fund, to the residents, a small amount goes to the communities to help them with their basic services.
Now, has this been a consistent amount now? Has it varied in the last several years?
It has varied a lot. I remember when I was still in a local government official myself, it got as high as $141 million that was distributed to the local communities. And that's when oil was quite a bit lower per barrel. Then for a couple of years, there was no revenue sharing at all. It was totally zeroed out. The administration at the time felt that there wasn't enough money to pay. And we saw a huge decline in the abilities for municipalities to provide those basic services. Then we helped, we wrote some bills, we helped find some solutions, and the Senate was very, very helpful in helping us put something together. And since 2007, we have been receiving $60 million among all the municipalities.
Now, revenue sharing is really critical for our modest-sized communities and our smaller communities, and we forget that in Alaska, what we think of as medium-sized communities are even Wrangell and Petersburg, who
Sitka,
are really relatively small compared to outside.
yes.
So buying a fire engine and this sort of stuff is...
Yeah, very expensive. Or just providing the heat for your buildings. I mean, that was one of the biggest things we noticed when revenue sharing stopped. Some of the small communities couldn't even keep their city halls heated. They couldn't keep gas in their fire trucks. There just wasn't enough money. And a lot of the small communities have native land, so they can't tax it. They have no property tax base. So they can have muffin sales or bake sales, but that doesn't usually turn over much money. So really, the only way a local government can get money is through fees and taxes. And there aren't a lot of local government people who are dying to raise taxes on their residents.
And some communities like Bethel, it has a tremendous amount of federal land and allotments and so on. So it'd be very divisive to try a property tax in a community like that.
Well, and the federal government right now is arguing about whether they can pay their federal PILT payments to municipalities. And I think the municipalities in the state receive about $130 million from the federal government.
PILT is...
On PILT. And
payments in...
Payment in lieu of taxes. And right now, the federal government says, well, we really don't have money for this. Now, in our real world, if we refuse to pay our property taxes, we'd both probably be in court. But
the federal government can...
Federal government can seem to say that, so
now,
we're
the PILT
fighting
payments, that's dependent on federal land in the area,
Yes.
and allotments and native land are included in that?
Native land is not included in that. Military bases are not included, but for here in Juneau, for instance, there's the forest land, the federal building, properties such as that. But we all provide services to either get to that federal land or to those federal buildings.
So the little form that goes home from school each year is about PILT payments.
A lot, yes.
Do you work on federal land, or are you
Right.
employed by the federal government? We got hit by another tidal wave in beginning at the end of the 1990s, and one was the dot-com collapse. The other was our 2008-2009 collapse in investment earnings. So the retirement funds took a big hit.
They did.
And that's a a difficult subject and complex and maybe to be talked about later, but that is also hit.
That has hit municipalities in many, many ways, and we didn't realize the ramifications that would have as it has moved through the legislature and as the years have gone by. I think even the legislature has been surprised at some of the ramifications. So we find ourselves every year working on a different part of PERS, trying to solve it and trying for municipalities to yet be responsible to help pay for that shortfall.
Now, we were actually well invested, before the earnings collapse. Isn't that correct? Or?
Well, it's hard to really get down to that story. I think we were for a while, but while I was still a local government mayor, I was doing payroll in my community, and I didn't understand the PERS, but I know for many years, the amount of money that I had to pay into the PERS system was zero for like 2 or 3 years. And I thought, I don't understand the system, but how people are retiring, why am I only paying zero? Well, many communities were only being charged zero, as the state told us, and then...
Well, we got hit with twice. I mean, the public doesn't understand that we got hit with the early 90s collapse,
right,
or 2000s, and then we all know what the last one was about,
right,
and we look at our own portfolios, same thing happened with everybody else.
Exact same thing.
Kathie, we're running out of time. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Oh,
I'm Mike
thank you.
Bradner, and this has been Capital Views, and we've been talking to Kathie Wasserman, who's the Executive Director of the Alaska Municipal League.
Thank you very much.
Let's do this.